who was the man who walked away from a life of wealth to follow Jesus, the one whose pen would give us the very first book of the New Testament. Today, we're diving deep into the incredible story of Matthew the Apostle. Before he was Matthew, he was Levi, the son of Alphaeus, and he wasn't exactly popular. Why? Because he was a tax collector in Capernaum, a bustling fishing town on the shore of the Sea of Galilee. In first-century Judea, tax collectors were seen as the ultimate sellouts. They worked for the Roman Empire, the occupying power, and were notorious for extorting money from their own people. They would collect the required Roman tax, and then add a hefty fee on top for themselves. This made them rich, but it also made them outcasts, despised by their fellow Jews, and considered sinners, lumped in with the worst of society. Imagine the scene. Levi is sitting at his tax booth, probably a busy, noisy spot where trade and money constantly changed hands. He's in the middle of his workday, a day like any other. Then a man walks up. This isn't just any man. It's Jesus of Nazareth, a traveling rabbi whose teachings and miracles are causing a stir throughout Galilee. Jesus looks at Levi, this man everyone else avoids, and says just 2 words: "Follow me." Think about the weight of that moment. Jesus didn't give him a long speech. He didn't ask him to change his ways first. He just invited him. And Levi's response is just as stunning. The Bible tells us he got up, left everything behind, and followed him. He abandoned his lucrative career, his financial security, and the only life he had ever known, all for this one invitation. It was a radical, life-altering decision made in an instant. This single act speaks volumes about the compelling power of Jesus' call. Levi saw something in Jesus that was worth more than all the money in his tax booth. To celebrate this new beginning, Levi, now known as Matthew, threw a huge party at his house. And who did he invite? Not the religious elite or the respectable members of society. He invited his old friends and colleagues, a whole crowd of tax collectors and other sinners. And Jesus and his disciples came and ate with them. This caused a huge scandal. The Pharisees, the strict religious leaders of the day, were horrified. They went to Jesus' disciples and asked, "Why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners?" They couldn't understand why a holy man would associate with such people. Jesus' response is one of the most powerful and defining statements in the entire Bible. He overheard them and said, "It is not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. But go and learn what this means. I desire mercy, not sacrifice, for I have not come to call the righteous, but sinners." This statement was revolutionary. Jesus was turning their whole religious system upside down. He was saying his mission wasn't for the people who thought they had it all figured out, the ones who saw themselves as perfect. His mission was for the broken, the outcast, the ones who knew they needed help. Matthew's own calling was the perfect example of this. He was the patient, and Jesus was the doctor who had come to heal him. This event shows us the heart of Jesus' ministry: grace, inclusion, and a love that reaches out to the most unlikely people. After this, Matthew became one of the 12 core disciples. He traveled with Jesus for the next 3 years, witnessing his teachings, his miracles, his crucifixion, and his resurrection. He was there for the Sermon on the Mount. He saw Jesus heal the sick and cast out demons. And he was in the upper room when Jesus shared the Last Supper. He was transformed from a social pariah into a frontline witness of the most significant events in human history. But Matthew's contribution didn't end there. Tradition strongly holds that he is the author of the Gospel of Mathew, the first book of the New Testament. And when you read this gospel, you can see the fingerprints of a former tax collector all over it. The Gospel of Mathew is incredibly organized and structured, almost like a detailed ledger. It's arranged into 5 major sections of Jesus' teachings, possibly mirroring the 5 books of the Torah. This systematic approach would have come naturally to a man used to keeping meticulous records. Furthermore, Matthew's Gospel has a special focus on money and finances. It's in Matthew that we find the parable of the talents, the story of the coin in the fish's mouth to pay the temple tax, and more references to money, gold, and silver than in the other Gospels. He understood the world of finance, and he used that knowledge to explain the priceless value of the kingdom of heaven. Another key theme in his Gospel is the fulfillment of Old Testament prophecy. The phrase, "This was to fulfill what was spoken by the prophet," appears again and again. Matthew was writing primarily to a Jewish audience, and he was passionate about showing them that Jesus was the long-awaited Messiah they had been reading about for centuries. He meticulously connected Jesus' life, birth, and ministry to the ancient prophecies, building a powerful, logical case for Jesus as king. What happened to Matthew after the events of the New Testament? The Bible doesn't say, but church tradition gives us some clues. It's believed that he traveled and preached the gospel for many years, with some stories saying he went as far as Ethiopia, Persia, or Macedonia. The details of his later life are debated, but most traditions agree that he died a martyr's death for his faith, sealing his testimony with his own life. The story of Matthew is a powerful reminder that no one is beyond the reach of grace. He went from being a despised outcast to one of the most influential figures in history. His life shows us that God doesn't call the qualified. He qualifies the called. He took a man skilled in counting money and used him to record treasures that are eternal. Matthew's story is a beautiful testament to the transformative power of a single yes to Jesus. What do you find most inspiring about Matthew's journey? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more stories from history. See you next time.